Before we begin, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you don't miss a single one of our upcoming videos.
Gentry was born Roberta Lee Streeter on July 27, 1942, near Woodland in Chickasaw County, Mississippi, to Ruby Lee, née Shipman, and Robert Harrison Streeter. After her parents divorced shortly after her birth, her mother moved to California, leaving Gentry to be raised on a farm in Chickasaw County, Mississippi, by her paternal grandparents. She grew up without electricity or plumbing. Her grandmother traded one of the family's milk cows for a neighbor's piano, and, at age 7, Gentry composed her first song, "My Dog Sergeant is a Good Dog." Gentry lived in Greenwood, Mississippi, with her father for a few years and learned to play the guitar and banjo. At age 13, Gentry moved to Palm Springs, California, to live with her then remarried mother. They performed as a duo, Ruby and Bobbie Myers, for a short time. Gentry took her stage name from the 1952 film Ruby Gentry, which she had seen on television. In the film, Ruby, played by Jennifer Jones, was a poor but beautiful girl from the backwoods who ended up marrying the town tycoon. After graduating high school, Gentry moved to Los Angeles to enter UCLA as a philosophy major. She supported herself with clerical jobs, occasionally performing at nightclubs and country clubs, and when she appeared in a review at Les Folies Burgers nightclub in Las Vegas, Bob Hope encouraged her to keep performing. She worked as a fashion model, and on June 29, 1962, United Press International circulated a wire photo of Gentry that included Cheryl Crane, daughter of Lana Turner. Gentry transferred to the Los Angeles Conservatory of Music, where she took classes in composition, music theory and arranging. While attending a Jody Reynolds concert at a club in Palm Springs in 1966, Gentry asked if she could sit in on one of Reynolds' recording sessions. This led to an invitation to sing on 2 duets with Reynolds, "Stranger in the Mirror" and "Requiem for Love." The 2 songs were released in September 1966 by Titan Records, but failed to chart. Gentry recorded a demo at Whitney Recording Studio in Glendale, California, in February and March 1967. Her sole ambition originally was to write songs to sell to other artists, telling the Washington Post that she only sang on the recording of Ode to Billie Joe that she took to Capitol because it was cheaper than hiring someone to sing it. Gentry signed with Capitol Records on June 23, 1967, where staff producer Kelly Gordon would produce Ode to Billie Joe as his first full-length album for the label. But it was Mississippi Delta, intended as the A-side of her first single, that initially got Gentry signed. Her original demo of Mississippi Delta was the version issued, but Ode to Billie Joe acquired a string arrangement by Jimmy Haskell, dubbed onto the original recording at Capitol. The day after the string session, Capitol's A&R team decided to make Ode to Billie Joe the A-side. The single was released on July 10, 1967. It would spend 4 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and, on the year-end chart, place number 3. The single reached number 8 on the Billboard Black Singles chart and number 13 on the UK Top 40. It sold more than 3 million copies worldwide. In 2001, Rolling Stone magazine listed Ode to Billie Joe among the 500 greatest songs of all time. Following the single's success, the producers quickly assembled the rest of the album from the 12 demos Gentry had recorded, completing overdubs in a matter of days. The result was a unique combination of blues, folk, and jazz elements that rounded out Gentry's recollections of her home, coming across more as a concept album than a hastily assembled collection of songs. Capitol pre-ordered 500,000 copies, the largest pressing of a debut album in the label's prior history. The album hit stores within a month of pressing, on August 21. Ode to Billie Joe replaced the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band at the top of the Billboard 200 and reached number 5 on the Billboard Black Albums chart. Gentry won 3 Grammy Awards in 1967, including Best New Artist and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. She was also named the Academy of Country Music's Most Promising Female Vocalist. In February 1968, Gentry took part in the Italian Song Festival in Sanremo competition, as one of 2 performers of La Cite by Vito Pallavicini and Massara. Capitol released the song concurrently as a single, backed by another Italian tune also recorded by Gentry, La Città Grande by Pallavicini and DuPonte. Gentry's second album, The Delta Suite, was released in February 1968. In its musical ambition, the album represented a decisive step beyond her debut. This concept album drew inspiration from Gentry's Mississippi Delta roots. Most of its sound comes from Gentry, who played almost every instrument on its tracks, including piano, guitar, banjo, bass, and vibes. Nonetheless, Capitol's Kelly Gordon, producer of Gentry's first work for the label, also received the entire producing credit for the Delta Suite. The album earned Gentry 2 more entries on the Billboard Hot 100. Okolona River Bottom Band peaked at number 54, while her cover of Louisiana Man made it to number 100. Although the album failed to match the success of its predecessor, only reaching number 132 on the Billboard 200, critics have called it one of the unacclaimed masterpieces of the 1960s. Impressed with Gentry's performances on and off-screen, the head of the BBC invited her, in 1968, to host a variety show on BBC Two, making her the first female songwriter to host a series on the network. With help from producer Stanley Dorfman, she made 6 half-hour episodes that aired weekly from July 13 to August 17 of that year. Dorfman told author Tara Murtha, after a few episodes, she was pretty much co-directing the show because she had such great ideas. But, the BBC wouldn't have an artist credited as a director or producer, so the credit went to me as producer and director. But she definitely contributed as much as I did creatively to the show. She was just full of ideas. Following the Delta Suite, Capitol released Gentry's third album, Local Gentry, in August 1968. It failed to appear on any of the Billboard album charts, but did peak at number 83 on the Cashbox Top 100 Albums chart. In September, 1 month after the release of Local Gentry, the artist's third album of 1968 came out. Bobbie Gentry and Glenn Campbell features duets with label mate Glenn Campbell. Their chemistry made the partnership a great success. The album peaked at number 11 on the Billboard Top LPs chart and number 1 on the Top Country LPs chart. It was also certified gold by the RIA and earned Gentry and Campbell the Academy of Country Music Award for Album of the Year. Gentry was also nominated for Top Female Vocalist. Gentry produced a second series of shows for BBC Two in 1969, which aired weekly from June 18 to July 23. Gentry's fifth album, Touch 'Em With Love, came out in July 1969. It marked a transition in her career. In an attempt to rebrand Gentry as a blue-eyed soul singer, it featured fewer self-penned regional songs and more systematically chosen cover songs. Recorded in Nashville and produced by Kelso Hurston, the album's 10 tracks included only 2 originals. The title track was released as the first single, but it failed to go above number 113 on Billboard's Bubbling Under the Hot 100 chart and only reached number 164 on the Billboard 200. Gentry's cover of I'll Never Fall in Love Again was released as the second single in the UK, where it became a number 1 hit on the UK singles chart. The album reached number 21 on the UK albums chart. In 1969, Gentry taped 4 television specials for Canadian television station CFTO-TV Toronto for North American syndication. April 1970 saw the release of Fancy, Gentry's 6th album in 3 years. Like 1969's Touch 'Em With Love, it contains only covers, except for the artist's self-penned title track. Most of the album was recorded at Fame Recording Studios in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, with producer Rick Hall. Fancy, released as the album's first single, became Gentry's biggest hit since Ode to Billie Joe, peaking within the top 40 in the US, Canada, and Australia. Of the song, Gentry herself said, "Fancy is my strongest statement for women's lib, if you really listen to it. I agree wholeheartedly with that movement and all the serious issues that it stands for: equality, equal pay, day care centers, and abortion rights," she explained to After Dark magazine in 1974. The album's first European single, a cover of Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, peaked at number 40. The album's second North American single, August 1972, The Girl from Cincinnati. Around the time Patchwork was released, the entire executive board that had been at Capitol throughout Gentry's career was fired. A major restructuring at Capitol took place as parent company EMI tried to seize back control and rekindle the label's dwindling profits. This saw the artist roster slashed from 247 to 81 alongside extensive cuts to production and marketing budgets. With none of the executive board left that had known and worked with her, negotiations stalled over the renewal terms of Gentry's contract, and this failure to reach an agreement with Capitol created a stalemate. Since Gentry was unwilling to release an album with Capitol on the terms offered, she found herself unable to release an album on another label, meaning she was left with no choice but to wait out the remaining option period of her contract. In 1974, she hosted a summer replacement variety show on CBS called the Bobbie Gentry Happiness Hour. The show, which was her version of Glenn Campbell's hit series The Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour, was not renewed for a full season. In 1975, Gentry wrote and performed Another Place, another time for writer-director Max Baer, Jr.'s filmmaking County Line. Following the film's success, the song was released on a promotional 7-inch single. In 1976, Baer directed the feature film Ode to Billie Joe, based on Gentry's hit song and starring Robbie Benson and Glynis O'Connor. In the movie, the mystery of the title character's suicide is revealed as a part of the conflict between his love for Bobby Lee Hartley and a drunken homosexual experience. Warner Brothers Records released a soundtrack of the score by Michel Legrand, including a re-recorded version of Ode to Billie Joe, retitled Ode to Billie Joe to match the film's title, with Gentry stating that the original spelling was an error. Warner Brothers released the new version as a single and Capitol re-released the original version, which gave Gentry 2 concurrent chart placings with the same song. The re-recording would go on to be Gentry's last single to chart, meaning that her first and last chart entries are the same song. In 1977, Gentry reunited with producer Rick Hall in Muscle Shoals to record an album for the Curb Records division of Warner Brothers Records. Unlike Gentry's 1969 Fancy album, Gentry's 1977 recording sessions with Hall were not at his Fame Studios, but at the nearby Music Mill studio. After an advance single, Steal Away, had an unsuccessful February 1978 release, the album was shelved. Steal Away, a remake of the 1964 Jimmy Hughes hit which had inaugurated Fame Studios' hit streak, had as its B-side, the Patty Dahlstrom composition He Did Me Wrong, But He Did It Right. These tracks, plus 3 additional tracks from Gentry's 1977 recording sessions, Slow Cookin', written by Abby Marble, Sweet Country, written by Gentry, and Thunder in the Afternoon, written by Mac Davis, Rita Graham and Yvonne Norman, would be released on the 1992 European compilation album Ode to Billie Joe. 1978 to 1982, final projects before retirement, edit. Gentry appeared as a guest on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson on Christmas Day 1978. She attended the Best of Vegas Awards on March 21, 1980. On May 10, 1981, Gentry was one of many celebrity guests to take part in an all-star salute to Mother's Day. During the television special she performed Mama, a rainbow from the musical Minnie's Boys for her mother, who was seated in the audience. This would prove to be Gentry's final public performance. The last time Gentry appeared in public was when she attended the Academy of Country Music Awards on April 30, 1982. She was 39 years old. Since that time, she has not recorded, performed or been interviewed. One 2016 news report stated that Gentry lives in a gated community near Memphis, Tennessee. According to another, Gentry lives in a gated community in Los Angeles.